Well, welcome back to Nightly Nonsense, where we make some sense out of the nonsense all around us. We've been talking about waiting. What do we do while we're waiting? I want to take a unique look at something today. I want to go to the story of Joshua. Joshua has a whole bunch of waiting. Joshua waited while he was under Moses. He waited when God tapped him out as the next leader to get that authority, to get that ability, right? Imagine following up after Moses, right? That is a very big thing. Sometimes we're waiting for a position that God has called us to, but we are a little intimidated by what's in front of us. Matter of fact, who's in front of us, right? But I want to look specifically for a second at Joshua in the Battle of Jericho, right? And Joshua was waiting for God to do something amazing, something impossible, right? But this wasn't a wait, sit on your hands, sit on the couch, watch the football game while God's working. This was an active waiting. Sometimes God calls you and I to active waiting. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, but it's true, right? Sometimes God says, hey, I got something for you. I need you to wait for me to fulfill that. But while you're waiting, let's do this, right? Joshua had to walk around the city of Jericho 13 times. 13 times he had to walk around, 7 days, right? He spent time waiting for the walls to come down while actively pursuing that, right? That's a really hard line for me to do, right? I don't feel comfortable actively waiting, right? It feels like I'm trying to make something happen. It feels like I'm trying to force something to happen. It seems like I'm not being patient. I got people always lecturing me about, just be patient, Andy, just be patient, right? And sometimes God says, in your patience, do something. Listen, Joshua had practice in this because he was waiting while actively supporting Moses, right? That's a whole nother topic, right? How do you wait patiently while having to support and encourage and come up underneath someone else who's leading, someone else who might have your position, right? How do we do that? How do we patiently wait for the manager at our store to leave so we can become the manager? How do we patiently wait to take on a role that God has called us to but hasn't fulfilled it yet, right? How do we patiently wait to be a mom or a dad when God hasn't seemingly fulfilled that yet? How do we patiently wait to be a spouse when God hasn't told us yet, when he hasn't fulfilled that? I know people that were told by God that they were going to be the spouse of someone who was already married. How do you patiently wait in that situation? How do you fulfill that calling? I know people that have actually taken care of, at the end of life, the spouse that they were then going to replace. That's craziness. How do you do that? How do you do that well? Well, God sometimes wants us to wait patiently, actively. Right? You and God have to figure that out. If you know that God has called you to something, being in the background until God puts you in the forefront, well, that's a really big deal. And the people who know how to do that, well, they do that really well. We're going to talk about that next time. Nightly Nonsense when we look at the story of David. See you then.